Grinders, happy Monday, 5 o'clock on the East Coast, start of 2+ hours non-stop NBA DFS chatter. Joined today by the greatest DFS player in all of Maine. I would never get that state wrong. Of course, we know Tim's from Maine. What's up, Tim? How are things in your world? Did you watch the football today? The football?
I did. I played a little DFS football, and I did not win, but it was a good time.
Did you wake up at like 7 o'clock in the morning? Because it was a 3-game slate, or are you like a showdown thing?
No, I woke up at 7 o'clock this morning.
Oh my gosh!
Made sure my lineups were as they should be.
Yeah, I mean, because obviously the lineups for the World Cup, I think they come out an hour before, and the games are spread out, like 8, 11, and 2? Does that sound right?
Yes, correct.
Oof, man. So I just found this out last night. I was talking to Blender on the Twitter Spaces when we tilt the football. Check that out on Twitter. The little synergy. Yeah, apparently we have a projection team. That's free with your sub if you guys have the RG Premium. You get World Cup, and according to Blender, he told me there's a podcast every single night that's talking some football World Cup as well. So it'll be out tonight. I'm not sure if the podcast is premium, to be honest. I think it is. But yeah, one more reason to get RotoGrinders Premium. Did you watch it? I guess you watched the games as well, right?
Oh yeah. I watched the show that Alex and Sean did, and I watched the show that Blender did, and I watched the games today. I'm gonna watch pretty much all the games, at least the ones that are involved in a DFS slate.
Yeah. What was your take as far as I watched the US game. What was your take as far as the US game?
I mean, I don't know much about the football, the football, but I thought it was a competitive game. I always root for the USA, and they always seem to disappoint me. And it's just another World Cup as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I mean, it's so wild, and I know there's obviously reasons why, but Wales has the population of Iowa, and the United States, obviously a lot of youth play soccer, but at some point they move on to football, baseball, hockey, other sports, and it's not prioritized. But it is kind of wild how we just can't seem to get it right. And it's just life's by the expectations. I thought we were going to win that game, and we dominated in the first half. In the second half, they fell back. That PK they gave up was just, it was legit. It was a penalty, but just a terrible penalty to take. Dude's got his back to the goal. He's basically the top of the 18-yard box, like just not in a great scoring position. We'll see.
The ref in that USA game was awful. Like the PK call was fine, but like the rest of the game seems super inconsistent. And I feel like the Twitterverse also agrees with me, so it wasn't just me being like,
well, the Americans getting upset for
but I feel like it was real. Like I feel like he blew a lot of calls.
It was inconsistent in that like he would stop the game sometimes, and sometimes yes, and sometimes no. And it wasn't a head injury; it was like a foot. And sometimes, of course, in soccer, unfortunately, part of the game is just sitting down and seeing if you can just chill and relax for a little bit and get away with it. A lot of floppage going on, but yeah, it was disappointing because I thought they were going to win. But going in, if you told me they're going to tie, it's like, okay. And then what's going to happen now? It's basically it's a round robin. It's going to come down the goal differential. They most likely lose to England. Both teams most likely lose to England, and it's goal differential against Iran. That's probably how it's going to come down as far as who's coming out of the bracket. Like England almost definitely comes out. Iran almost definitely does not. And we'll see. But we got England on Friday, which and US looked beat up too, which is the other thing. Pulisic didn't look 100% coming out. Whatever. There's my soccer takes for the people. I'll be watching on Friday. Hopefully, the people didn't come here for our soccer takes. They want to talk some basketball. Tonight's slate, it's a weird one, Tim, in that the way it sets up, right? A lot of body parts in and out. We're getting some information. We just got Wendell Carter ruled out, which is a big deal. It's the way it's set up, right? 2 games right out the gate, 7 o'clock. And then we wait an hour. And we got 5 games at 8 o'clock. And we wait 2.5 hours. And we have an island game there just sitting there with the Jazz and the Clippers. And we know how terrible the Clippers are as far as reporting injuries. And we have Paul George sitting there. He's questionable. If he plays, the Clippers become kind of useless. We'll talk about it. If he doesn't, some things kind of open up. But we already have, Golden State. I mean, they're 1-9 in the season on the road. So they're playing on a back-to-back. And like, screw it. We're just going to lose anyway. So let's sit everybody. We still have some question marks as far as Golden State, but they ruled out their key pieces. So I don't know how much value stuff we're going to need. Miami, we can get some more value as well, too. They're in the back-to-back as well. We saw, dude, who came back last night? The 3-point. Duncan Robinson came back yesterday, and with a finger, he came back and played with his finger. Then he lost. He's not available now because of a leg. So Miami should be thin once again. Chance of a blowout there. I think they're 10-point dogs in Minnesota. Bam Adebayo is questionable as well. There's a lot of things up in the air, is what I'm saying as far as slates. Some good stuff at 7:00 too, as far as locking in good players early. What is your approach? Because again, it's 2 at 7, 5 at 8, and then one more at 10:30 that could be interesting or could be kind of meh. Oh, yes. Paul George was just rolled out according to chat.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he was. Yep, he is. He's out.
Interesting. I'm shocked we got that this early. That's weird. We never get Clippers news early. But okay. That's good to know. Go ahead. I cut you off. I just thought that was important.
No, well, I mean, everything I was about to say is different now. So, I mean, it's a little bit different. I still like the biggest news in my eyes is Andrew Wiggins. Like he's questionable. They're ruling everybody else out. Except for Wiggins and Poole. But Poole's not even on the injury report, so I'm assuming he's going to play. We have Wiggins projected in right now because he's questionable. But, I think that would be just like – that would change the whole look at the slate, in my opinion. And they
gave him a body part. They gave him a foot. Is that real, or is that just like we just going to go full measures and say screw it? Clay's sitting, Draymond sitting, Steph sitting. Why are we even playing Wiggins?
That's what I don't understand. But I mean, I just never understand what these organizations are doing. Like why send Wiggins out there? Like this doesn't make any sense to me. Just rest everybody if you're gonna rest those three guys. But I don't know. So
and Looney's also questionable, and I think.
Right.
I think he's got like a consecutive games played streak that he might care about. I think he played all 82 last year.
Yeah.
I could be wrong about that. That might have been broken, but I think he's played a bunch of games consecutively. So maybe he cares about that. I mean, I don't know why Steve Kerr would care if he cares, but
because it's like that would solidify like JaMychal Green, right? As like a plug and play mid-price guy. And then it's like we lose Wiggins and we lose Looney, then it's a full-on stars and scrubs slate. But if we keep those guys, then there's a chance that the construction of this slate kind of is a little bit different, right? Like then we might be able to not be so stars and scrubs. So to me, those are the two. That's the two biggest pieces of news right there. Like Paul George, it matters, but I think that this is the key piece. With like in terms of like the 2 7:00 games, it's really the Magic, right? And maybe like a run back of Halliburton. Those. It's like Cleveland, how do you?
I think the Cleveland big men. I really like Jared Allen.
Yeah, Jared. Like I'm super happy that you said that earlier in the day. I really wanted to play Jared Allen. I was like, this is a real I really want to play this. Like both Fanduel and DK. I was like, this is. Like I think in our consensus value rankings, I had him ranked 1. That this was at like 11 in the morning, and but now it's like, do I want to take up my center spot when I've got JaMychal Green, perhaps when I've got Kuminga, that can be power forward center.
Bull Fanduel's a center,
right. So it's like. But I am glad that you said that because I think he's a really, really good larger field tournament play. But in terms of like single entry cash game type stuff, I don't think maybe he's going to pop up in some optimals. I'm not sure. But the thing is on FanDuel, he's also power forward eligible, which is really nice. So I'm glad that you brought him up because early in the day I was very, very high on him, and now I'm obviously that's plummeted, but the ownership will plummet as well.
I'm running some optimals. This stuff is going to change, obviously, but as it stands right now, you mentioned the Warriors. I believe if nothing, even if Wiggins plays, and even if Looney plays, Poole is a really strong play, and Kuminga, assuming he jumps in the starting lineup, is a really strong play. And then you have like fringe guys like Moody. Green is a fringe guy. I don't really know about DiVincenzo, but yeah, I mean, no matter, even if Wiggins and plays, I think Poole looks like an awesome play, and Kuminga looks like an awesome play. And I'm pretty sure that they're hitting optimals. Is that kind of where you're at as well? I mean, we'll talk about
they've got to be 1 and 2 in every optimal on both sites, right? I mean that, like,
I think so.
I'm sure we've had it, but I don't remember the last projected 9x on DK.
Huh.
He's projected for 9.31x.
That's Kuminga?
Yeah. I don't remember the last time I've seen somebody over 9.
That's pretty hard to do. You got to be really cheap to get the 9x projection for sure.
Right.
And I jumped over to we have a nice projection on Wagner, by the way. Like, we'll talk about him as well. It's another 7:00 game. We'll talk about the Magic because they're without several of their key pieces. A good matchup against Orlando. I believe this is a rematch. Didn't they just play this a couple days ago? Am I not mistaken?
They did, yeah.
The Magic have been hanging out. Is this one of those deals where they played in Indiana and they stuck around for a couple days? Was it in Indiana the last game?
I don't know.
Yeah. What do you do in Indiana for 2 days to kill some time? I guess I practice, I suppose, at one point. But
I live in Maine, Dean. I mean, I could find a lot of things to do in Indiana. That would be an upgrade for me.
You could fish in Maine, right? I think that's a big thing.
That's true. But this time of year, hey, do you want to go ice fishing, Dean? You can come up, go ice. Like, you don't know what ice fishing is?
I think you stick you just stick it in there and you just drop the pole in the water and like wait for something to catch, and that's that. Like, I'm sure there's a greater technique to it. Or fly fishing is even more confusing.
That's basically it, Dean. That's basically what ice fishing is.
Any novice can just gotta walk in there and do yeah.
I've actually won a huge ice fishing derby before.
What?
Yep.
That's got to be part of your intro. What is an ice fishing derby?
You pay money to get into this contest, and then whoever has the heaviest fish wins.
I've seen like on ESPN accidentally, like I'm either catching the back end or something kind of runs long, and they have like these people like with holding up fish in like arenas. Like it's like a Bass Pro.
Bass Pro. Yeah,
20,000 people show up to watch a guy.
How do we not have DFS for professional trout fishing? I don't understand. I don't understand, Dean.
Would you be the tout at RG? Would you put your hat in the ring?
I would attempt to. I would attempt to tout that.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, Bassmasters apparently is what it's called. I don't understand it. I'm totally ignorant to it. I don't know what's exciting about watching somebody hold up a fish. Like, I don't. Like, who shows up for that? It's a packed house, but also, LOL sells out as well. Like 20,000 people, like 50,000 people, like in the Tokyo Dome or something, right?
Hey, I've been sweating CS:GO for like the last 2 weeks, Dean.
But would you go to an arena and put on pants?
Probably, that's true. I probably will not do that. I would not go to the arena, but I will sit in my office and watch them and get mad at them for whatever it is that they're doing.
Come on, Faker, be more aggressive.
Right, and bet real dollars on them.
I just like the injuries when they have like the thumb issues and
the
late scratches. All right, 7-game round.
So you are proving Devin right. He said, Dean, that you can talk about anything, which is happening right now with ice fishing. But I have a challenge for you throughout while you break down these games.
Sure.
I'm going to pop in every once in a while, and I'm going to throw a random topic to you.
Oh, I can.
You have to give me 20 seconds on it, at least 20 to 30 seconds on what you know about it. So your first topic is, I want you to tell me everything you know about Mount Vesuvius, and please include the last time it erupted without looking up.
You found a hole in my game. If Jeopardy was one, the categories was mountains. I'm not even getting the $100 question. Everest would be like the chalk, but Vesuvius. I just know I had a friend of mine. I worked at many, many, many years ago. I was working at Ruby Tuesdays, and this guy would do like these improv raps. And I remember he found a way to rap Mount Vesuvius, and I was just thoroughly impressed. And that's my first inclination in my brain when somebody says Mount Vesuvius.
I'll allow it as long as you can tell me what he rhymed it with. I will give you this round.
I think it was inappropriate. I don't recall, but I feel like it was inappropriate.
It was appropriate enough for Ruby Tuesdays, though.
Yeah, I mean, it was at the salad bar. Nobody was paying attention. Anything goes down, at the salad bar, it's like prison rules. You could say whatever you want over there. I used to bet like we used to sell tips and like bet like a under over on. This is the things that we would do at Marie Tuesdays to pass the time. But that's a story for another day, I suppose. If it was a 3-game slate, I'd really get into it. Is it going to be a 2-top or a 4-top? What do you got? My table over there, they're giving me a hard time. What's the bill? Is it $50? I'll give you $7 right now. I'll buy your tip over under. And I'll salvage it for you. All right. Tim, you ever work in the service industry or no?
Yeah, I used kind of. Never as a waiter, but I used to own like a wine and cheese shop.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and a catering business. So not like a restaurant, but catering. Yep.
All right, fair enough. My brother, well, not a caterer. He sells all this. It's not worth getting into. All right, let's talk about the slate. Let's kind of break it down game by game. 2 games at 7:00. The first one we're going to talk about, that would be Atlanta. I feel like I failed the Mount Vesuvius. I was a little bit off the board. That's not my wheelhouse, unfortunately. Atlanta at Cleveland, 226 is the total. Cleveland is a 3-point favorite here. We kind of hinted at Cleveland having some value with some of their body parts being vulnerable, being out today. We don't know about Kevin Love. It's a back-to-back for him. Yesterday, his thumb had an ouchie, so he could not play. So he's currently questionable. They ruled out fellow big man Dean Wade. And Karis LeVert also not playing basketball tonight. Atlanta fully healthy with the exception of maybe DeAndre Hunter. He had the fish. The guy held it up, and then he sold it to DeAndre Hunter, and it didn't go so well. So he's ill, questionable tonight. Atlanta's just like lost on this slate, and Cleveland's not a fun team to pick on. If you want to be different right out the gate, like roster yourself some Atlanta Hawks, I don't think anybody's doing that.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, that's one way to be really different. I mean, I guess it's Trae Young. I think that he could potentially be an optimal play at that price. It's just such a bad matchup. Cleveland's a really good defensive team. They're on the road. It's just, I think that you're doing that only like to hit. You're only doing that to hit an outlier, right? Like you're not doing that with the assumption that he's going to be optimal. You're doing that. You're purely just speculating, and I think that that's fine. But it's not anything I'd get too aggressive with in my GPP portfolio.
You're playing single entry and 3 entry max. I'm going to say you're not playing any Hawks.
That is correct. They're a pretty clear and immediate cross off for me.
Yeah, I mean there is some ownership coming Trae Young's way for what it's worth. I think that's a little aggressive. We have 14% on Fanduel. I think that's a little bit high personally. This stuff obviously
he's 11% on DK, which
I mean, look, they do a great job. I always feel like a jerk when I'm like disagreeing, and I agree with like 98% of it, but I never point that out. What's the fun of that? But I'm like, this one thing I think is a little bit wrong. And this stuff almost always gets corrected or adjusted, or sometimes I'm just wrong. Maybe I'm a big dummy. But I'm not focusing on Atlanta at all. Murray even less so. Capella, tough matchup on the inside there against Mobley and Allen. I just don't see myself going there. Hunter, we don't know. If he doesn't play, I don't think it's a clear and obvious guy that like all of a sudden vaults in. Like it's not going to be better than the Golden State stuff. It's not going to be better than what other stuff is opening up. Right, even if Hunter's out, I don't think. I guess Griffin would get some run, and the Holiday would get a little more run. Maybe the Holidays, I should make that plural. But is there one guy that would vault? I don't think so.
Yeah, and it just came across on Twitter that Kevin Love is on track to play. I know that we were talking about Atlanta, but just for the next for Cleveland. He's on track to play. So I don't think. What's that?
Miami always says on track to play. They stole it from Miami. That's their thing. But go ahead.
Okay. So I don't think that we have such better value that nothing's going to come from DeAndre Hunter missing this game. Hunter's not a high usage guy, so that's not going to change anything.
What about the Cleveland side? We kind of sort of touched on it to some degree. Kevin Love playing, like Allen's still going to get his. I thought he might get an extra minute or two, maybe get 35 minutes or something like that, but. With Love playing, I think that's just going to hit like Robin Lopez. Not that you're playing Robin Lopez, but you know what I mean, like guys like that. Right. I still think Mobley, who's taken a nice little step forward this year, love him. Wish it was a little bit cheaper on Fanduel. 7K on DK is fine, but I prefer the discount to Jared Allen. It sounded like you would prefer Allen over Mobley as well when you consider price.
Yeah, considering Price and Mobley's 14% on DK and Allen's only 22%, so like that ownership gap is not high enough for me to want me to switch my exposure to Mobley, if that makes sense. Like, it's just I think I think it's clear that Allen is the far better play, and I also I love that Allen has power forward eligibility on FanDuel. Have you noticed that DK has become much more strict on their multi-position eligibility, and FanDuel I don't think has?
Yeah, that's a pretty fair
Do you agree with that? Do you agree with that? Yeah,
I do agree with that. How about like Mitchell and the guards here and Garland? Mitchell plays a ton of minutes. He's fine. I'm not going to discourage.
Who do we think? I guess it's. I'd have to look and see who Trae Young is going to guard, because we don't want who Murray's going to guard, right? Like Young's a terrible defender, so I'm guessing that Young will guard Garland, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So that
I would guess that too.
Yeah, so I'm guessing I feel like that I'd rather have exposure to Garland than Mitchell.
Who's Lamar Stevens going to be on? Is he going to be on Young? He's their best defender, right? Cleveland. Oh, the best wing defender, I guess we can say. That's fair to say, right? Stevens their best wing defender?
Yeah, I mean, I would assume he'd be on Murray.
Okay.
But I don't know.
Yeah, CB in chat saying everyone's saying fade Atlanta, watch Atlanta go off. They might. Like they certainly can. I think they're taking the scenic route. The path to fantasy points are not as clear, but if you're running 150, I wouldn't say X out Trae Young, but I'm not running 150 and Tim's not either. But want to be clear, like if we just say like, hey, Trae Young's a good play, we're gonna say every top 3 players in every team is a good play. You have to be able to distinguish and separate good plays from better plays and how that works. But
I guess if like a 150 maxer is listening, then like the question is, do you want to be over or under 10% or 11% or whatever he's going to be on DK? And I think that ownership seems just a little high to me. So I would prefer being under that, but I'm not going to sit here and say completely fade it either if you're going to build 150.
I would say maybe close to the field. Like what I'll take 8 to 10%. That's fine.
Or if you're playing a 20 max, put him in 1, or I mean, that's 5%. So I think that's probably what I would do if I was playing in a 20 max field.
And the same sort of deal as far as Cleveland and Mitchell, right? Like Mitchell's a really strong play. I don't think he's popping in ownership. I'm pulling it up right now. 15%. That's a reasonable number. Allen at 20% on DK, Mobley at 14, Garland at 10. Like Garland at 9K with everybody. Like I like Garland, but that seems just a little bit pricey for me at 9K. I don't know if I can do that. I'm very likely not to in my few lineups. Again, not trying to discourage it, but just being clear that that's not Garland's is not an optimal play. You'd agree with that?
Yeah, I would. If it's anybody from this team, it's Allen for me. I would say even I wouldn't mind getting a little bit over 22% in a large field.
Clay is out. They're asking about Clay. Yeah, Clay basically at this point we're just assuming he's not going to play back-to-backs, and they decided to let several people join him, and it's going to be about the Warriors. We'll talk about them soon enough. Again, we only got half report. Several guys are questionable. Their key players have already been ruled out. You got anything else as far as Atlanta, Cleveland, or shall I move on and talk about Orlando and Indiana?
Let's go to Orlando, Indiana.
All right. Orlando, Indiana, 226, big boy number. Indiana is a 7-point favorite. We got news on the Orlando side as far as them missing several pieces tonight. They're going to be without Wendell Carter Jr., of course, Ben Caro, 2 of their best players. All the other guys that have been out are still out. That's Cole Anthony and Mo Wagner and Fultz, and who knows when we'll ever see Jonathan Isaac on a basketball court again. As far as Indiana, they are is Nembhard questionable? I think he's questionable. That doesn't really matter though. Like whatever, I suppose you can acknowledge it, but he's currently questionable. Last I saw. But let's talk about the Orlando side, and this is where you're going to find some value. Mo Bamba is popping up in some optimals, and I believe this is the matchup we saw on Friday, right, where Bamba was super popular. He got in some foul trouble. He kind of, sort of, somewhat salvaged, but he mostly disappointed. He definitely disappointed. This was that matchup, yes? I think so.
I think so.
Similar predicament too. I think Bamba, where you assume is going to start, alongside Suggs, Wagner, Okiki, and Bull, with the absence of. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we have Bamba projected for 30 minutes and in the starting lineup, and I think that he's a really spectacular play, and he's one of those guys that takes away from Jared Allen, right? Just like we talked about before. We haven't had an ownership projection update yet, but I'm sure that we will soon.
Yeah.
And Bamba's going to come in. They're going to take some of that ownership from Jared Allen and move it to Bamba. And just like we talked about, is that it's that I think that makes Allen a really good tournament play, and Bamba's probably going to be your cash game center, unless we get Looney Wiggins news and then JaMychal Green. So it's kind of one of those, you're going to have to leave some swaps for that Golden State game.
Have a plan B, and have a plan C, and we'll see when news starts coming in. Be prepared. Again, there's a huge chunk. 7 o'clock, 2 games. And then, after this one, we're talking about the 8 o'clock games, 5 8 o'clock games, and that Clipper game is the nightcap all by itself there, 10:30. Did just run some optimals on DK, and they almost hit my threshold as far as allotted number of lineups to crack. I put it at 71, no higher than 71. Franz Wagner at 66%. This is DK. Suggs, 48%. Bamba, 48%. The Magic jumping right out there. Obviously, that's what happens when you're missing 2 of your key pieces. It's a good matchup as well. On FanDuel, same sort of deal. Wagner at 63%, Bamba at 58%, Suggs at 35%. So, yeah. And again, you're tying stuff up early. Of course, these guys can go off in the first half, and you're kicking yourself like, man, maybe I shouldn't have backloaded. So what's the plan here? Prioritize the Magic for me. Wagner, Bamba, and Suggs. I think those are the 3 key guys we're gonna kind of hone in on. Can you power rank those 3?
Yeah. So for me, it's Bamba, and then it's Wagner, and then it's Suggs. Those would be my power rank. And then I guess Okiki on FanDuel is still really, really cheap.
How much is he?
4,600.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, he hit 16% for what it's worth as far as the optimals. He's priced up a little bit more than he's been all season long, 4.6K. He's generally not a guy that's going to crack the slate unless he gets a ridiculous amount of stocks or threes, Which
5.2 on DK seems a little expensive, even with them missing Carter, but at 4.6 on FanDuel seems decent.
Playable. I mean, that's if it's a last man in and that's the salary I have, that's kind of my thought process. I'm not starting with that.
So, what do you think about a max 2 for Orlando, or is it max 3?
Ooh,
I think that's kind of like the top, because this matchup is amazing.
If you're maxing 3, I would probably force a run back like a Halliburton. By the way, Nemhart's out on the other side, so I probably wouldn't play 3 Magic and 0 Pacers. So I would probably set it up where I'd force 1 Pacer if 3 Magic, if that makes sense. But I don't think I want 3 Magic. Can they all 3 hit their ceilings? I guess. Yeah.
Indiana's so bad defensively.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, I see what you're saying, but I think that they can actually all hit their ceilings.
Nemhart officially ruled out. Maybe we'll see Mathurin draw the start for what it's worth on the Indiana side. They have plenty of bodies. They have a bunch of dudes over there.
I also hope they don't start him and just let him run the second unit. And if that's the case, then I think he makes for a really good large field GPP play. I mean, he's a good play either way.
Large field, yeah.
I'd almost prefer him just coming running the second unit.
His usage would obviously increase. 5.3 on FanDuel, 5.7 on DK. You got some versatility on DK as well. The price down is good, but at least you can throw him at, the guard spot or the forward spot, the SG, the SF. Yeah, so I guess that's how much do you like Halliburton tonight? Are we going to get an optimal game out of him against Orlando?
Yeah, I'm not huge on him. I totally get it if you want to go there, and I totally agree with you that if you do play 3 Orlando guys, you really do need to have a run back. So he would definitely be the top candidate from that. There's just other guards, I think, that I want to prioritize more that we haven't gotten to. So we'll see. But right now, I guess I'm not extremely bullish on Halliburton.
Is it fair to assume like it's not that much more for SGA? That's what you're thinking, right?
Kind of.
Yeah.
But also it's, this Golden State situation. Do I want to take up a guard spot?
Should we wait a little bit on Golden State? That's the next game. Like, should we wait and see if we get news, or we're just not getting news? We'll probably get news at 6:30, and that's when crunch time's here, because that's an hour and a half before the game starts. That's usually when they talk. Or we might get just updates and hey, they're still questionable, and Kerr's playing some games. But that's our next game, and I'm just kind of asking, should we talk about that, or should we put it in the back burner just in case something breaks, because we might be wasting our time?
I think we should talk about it only because it is the most important game on the slate. So I think that if someone's going to want, so I think we should talk about it.
Final thoughts as far as Orlando, Indiana, and these are the 7:00 games. How much do you feel, as of right now, news will change, but who do you feel really reasonably confident in that you're plugging in your 7:00 main lineup?
I think Wagner and Bamba.
Yeah, I'm going to have at least one of those Magic guys in my main lineup. I might have Jared Allen in my main lineup. I like him a good bit tonight. I wish
Kevin Roth was
playing.
Yeah.
I don't think Halliburton's going to be my main lineup. It's fine if that's what you want to do. But yeah, that's just, again, I'm going to have a couple lineups where I'm going to sprinkle in other stuff. You had Suggs behind the big man, Bull and Bamba, right?
I did, but I don't have a huge amount of conviction behind that. I still think Suggs is a really good play, and I think that he's one of the reasons why you can play 3. I think that he's a spectacular play today. So I think Bull is fine.
Yeah.
It's
isn't that wild? He's a viable, legit, fantasy player in the mid tier and over 6K. Well, good for him what he's turned himself into.
Yeah. I think I really like Orlando today. I would be very, very heavy on them in my GPP portfolio.
I think about Orlando to win this game. I was thinking sports gambling wise. You're just saying DFS wise.
I'm saying DFS wise. Yeah, no, I don't like to. It's hard betting basketball. Spreads are so tough because I think that there's a lot of obviously tanking going on. It's very difficult.
Do want to say what's up there, everybody hanging out in the chat. Kindly hit that like button. Do us that pleasure. Caress it, tap it, whatever your ad of choice happens to be. Get that thumb turned up. Subscribe to the channel so you know when we're going to be talking. Well, we are basically going to be talking about all the sports. We're going to have a little bit of a different schedule for Thanksgiving. Wednesday night, I'll be going early talking some football. We'll talk some Thanksgiving, myself and Rebar and Daigle, the Pick 6 show. Definitely want to tune in for that. And all right. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit different as far as the schedule this week. I haven't looked at Thursday. Is there no basketball Thursday? I don't think there is. They take the day off?
I think they usually do, right? Because they play on Christmas.
Yeah.
And
Hunter
then they
ruled out.
Yeah, Hunter is out.
Yeah, I wish that wasn't the case just because, I kind of just made up my mind not to care about Atlanta. And now, those guys.
I don't think that's gonna matter.
Yeah.
All right, Dean. In honor of the Greek freak playing tonight, I want you. I'm going to give you an easy one. I want you to tell me everything you can about the Greek god Nike.
Oh, dude! I thought you were going to ask me to tell you about Greece. Can I just talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo, that viral video that went viral the other day? So after the game where he lost and he didn't shoot free throws very well, this is me pivoting, by the way. This is me. I know nothing about the Greek god Nike. Again, if gods was the category on Jeopardy, I am losing all the money. If that was my daily double question, I am wagering $1, 0 if I can. Again, not my wheelhouse. But
the Greek god Nike was the Greek goddess of victory.
Nike was a goddess. Okay.
She would fly over the battlefield deciding who would win in little skirmishes below, which I think that Giannis needed the other night.
So he was shooting free throws. A lot of times you'll see a player has a bad game or they do something incorrect. They want to get their game right. And, he wanted to hit some free throws. When the game was over, people are leaving the place. and Montrezl Harrell took his ball. Like, he took the ball away from him, and he refused to let him shoot. And he kicked him off the court, and like Giannis goes, okay, I guess instead of like being confrontational, Giannis goes like, okay, I guess I'll go to the other side of the court and I'll shoot some free throws over there. Well, there's some dudes working on the rims and messing around with him. There's some ladders, and he's taking his anger out in Montrezl Harrell, and these guys just trying to take the rims down. Did you see this clip, Tim? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah.
But it was edited in a way that like Giannis like was not triggered. I don't know what the right word is. But like you didn't know about the whole situation of Montrezl Harrell from the start, and it was a bad look for Giannis. Either way, I suppose you treat people well, but I can see why he would be frustrated. Everything else I see from that guy, he seems like spectacular. But yeah, that was just an interesting clip, I thought, and he was trying to get his free throw game right, and he's out there throwing ladders into the game. But there you go. That was me pivoting away from that question because I know nothing about Greek gods. Not my wheelhouse. Yeah. Would you have been able to answer that question, Tim? I don't know what the goddess of Nike. All right. Well, I don't feel so bad then, thankfully. Michael's asking in chat, the movie for the Pick Six show is The Cooler. The Cooler was the movie they were ready to watch. Have you seen The Cooler? It's a gambling movie.
I have. I'm trying to remember, though, what it's.
William H. Macy, Alec Baldwin, Maria Bello.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you like it? Do you remember?
I'm going to have to rewatch it.
It's good.
That's
good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to give any plot points away, but I don't want to dig into it. But I like
I remember seeing it, but it was a long time ago.
All right. Let's move on. Let's talk about one of the first 8 o'clock games we'll talk about will be Golden State and New Orleans. 228 is the total. Golden State currently with a 12-point dog here. Obviously, the Warriors back half of a back-to-back. They're essentially giving this game up, it seems, with the news we got already. The absence of Steph. They gave Steph an elbow, I think, which is hilarious. I love when they do that. Let's give him an elbow. Sure, why not? Draymond's out for injury management. Just say Steph injury management. It's all right. Own it. We know what you're doing. Clay is out as well. And Looney and Wiggins are questionable, with one's got a hand, one's got a foot. As far as the New Orleans side, New Orleans is pretty healthy with the absence of potentially Trey Murphy. He's got a foot, so he's questionable. Zion expected to be good to go with his foot. So as it stands right now, Poole is popping in optimals. Kuminga, where we have both those guys jumping in the starting lineup, they're popping pretty good. And then Wiggins and Looney look fine as well if they play, but we don't know, and that's kind of the limbo we're in. So what's the plan? What if we don't get this by 7 o'clock? I think we will, for what it's worth.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we probably will, but I don't really have that much interest in Looney, to be honest with you, eating up a center position. I think that there are better plays, and I think that he might carry too much ownership relative to his optimal rate. I'm just kind of speculating that he'll be higher owned than 6%. So, yeah, I think Jordan Poole, you need to lock in your lineups. Kuminga, you obviously need to lock in your lineups. Those are 100% plays for me. On both sites. Doesn't matter how many lineups I'm playing. I'm going to lock those two guys in. Poole is still too cheap, even if this game kind of gets out of hand at the end of the fourth quarter. I still think he can pay off that price tag pretty easily. The harder part for me, as of right now, is kind of what to do with Wiggins and also Moses Moody and JaMychal Green, because those two guys, they're pretty much the stone men, and they're gonna allow you to get up to any stud that you want to, and they're gonna see enough minutes to easily pay off those price tags. If Wiggins and Looney sets.
Moody tonight, by the way, like you said, 3K still minimum on DK, 3.8 on Fanduel. I would say theoretically more useful on DK than on Fanduel. Just kind of the way things work. Not a great fantasy point minute player on this season, 0.65. I would imagine that would increase if he's playing alongside lesser players. JaMychal Green at 0.85 this season. Poole is a fantasy point minute player, and he'll go even higher in the absence of all the shooters, obviously. And Wiggins, I assume we get a bump. I didn't run a court IQ, but sometimes you just kind of use your brain hole in this one, and I think that kind of makes sense. Looney, I think, would kind of almost not really change a heck of a lot, right? They don't really run a lot of stuff through him, but he'll be fine. He might get a slight bump as far as like boards or something like that. Again, didn't run it, but if he's good to go and he starts, I think he's pretty interesting too. This is this tricky thing, Tim, and like, people talk about, well, how do you play 3 players on one side and not have a run back? I think this is one of those scenarios where, or like you saw the other day with the Heat in Washington. Like, of course, it worked out for Washington, like with Porzingis, and I think Beal had a great game too. But you could play 3 players on one team, or even 4 theoretically, and you don't have to run it back. Like, just because one team is so forced, they're so decimated to play, a very, very clear core, and they're also really, really cheap. Do you feel like you have to run something back here as far as New Orleans if you're running out 2 or 3 Golden State? And if so, who is that player on New Orleans? Because I don't think I have to run anything back on New Orleans. They're all sort of fine, but I don't feel like I have to.
You absolutely do not have to, because Golden State is so cheap. Like, I think that you should run back a pacer if you're playing 3 Magic, but the Magic aren't that cheap. So like you really need that game to go well over its expectation to pay off those heavier price tags. This Warriors game, it doesn't have to be like that. So you absolutely could play 3 Golden State players and not have any kind of run back at all. If you did, I don't mind getting to like CJ McCollum, but I don't think he's a priority at all.
Yeah, and I don't think our ownership's going to reflect that either, right? Do we have and it's not been refreshed. It's coming in soon, I'm sure. McCollum is getting the most on the DK side as of a couple hours ago, 11%. Ingram at 6%. I think the interesting one is Nance. This feels like a game where Nance can really get loose. It feels like more of a Nance game than it does, a Valanciunas game. Nance closes pretty much every single time over anyway. That's
a really good call, Dean. I forgot about him. So yeah, that's a really good large field GPP play is Nance.
That's my favorite play in New Orleans. I don't think does he fully mop up? I don't know. Do you think he fully mops up? Probably not, right? Like if this game
probably not if this is like a super blowout, but he should still close.
Let's see. They got Willie Hernan-Gomez. They got Jackson Hayes. Yeah, they're not going to. Yeah. If the game's fully blown out, if it's like 25 points, that's the tricky part. Like if he comes in, the game's already blown out, and then like the sixth man, if you want to call him that, takes a hit. But that's also kind of part of the risk, I suppose. When this game is close, he's almost definitely closing, and he's playing well, I think. He's got the potential to play, 27, 28, 29 minutes. And then good fantasy point minute player as well. Him and Valanciunas essentially chopped those 48 minutes. Michael wants to know thoughts on how you treat high-priced players for New Orleans on DK given this context. Yeah, we just sort of talked about it. And, I'm not going to say you can't play Zion and you can't play Ingram, you can't play McCollum. And I don't think I'm forcing that. But I may. We'll see. Yeah. By the way.
They certainly aren't priorities at all.
Producer Devin, he wants people to partake, to be able to use the World Cup tools. We were talking so much about the World Cup earlier, and not just the World Cup. You get all the sports: football, baseball, basketball, golf. Is golf still being played right now? Is it in season? I have no idea. MMA, they're still punching each other in the face, right? I think that's still going down. There's weight swap too. Lots of people have opinions on that on Twitter. You can get all of it for free for 1 week. 1 week free, RotoGrinders Premium. You get the expert stuff, all the core articles, anything you can want. The optimizer as well. It's very easy. It's very simple. Just go to the Discord channel, rotogrinders.com/Discord, hit up the live stream chat channel, and just hit the enter button. You got to click it. That's it. It's dummy proof. It's not very hard. I'll drop this link in chat. I think that should be a direct link. It's got to attach your RotoGrinders account. You don't have to have a premium account, just any RotoGrinders account. And you jump in there at the live stream chat channel and just hit that button. Producer Devin's giving away a week free to RG Premium. I think there's about 10 minutes to go on the clock. So you do want to get in there before. Oh, it's 8 minutes. I lied. That could have been disastrous. We averted that one pretty quickly. All right. Is there much else to say here? You're going to have say you're making 100 lineups, whatever. Are you putting rules where you're forcing at least, I guess you don't have to, right? Forcing 2 Golden State guys because it's going to happen anyway. What's the most Warriors you'll play? But I guess that's kind of in limbo dependent upon if Wiggins and Looney play, right?
Yeah, I think you could max 4 of them. But I think I would put 3 in every lineup.
A couple of questions just popping up in chat. We can hit these up organically. Jason wants to know shooting guard under 6'5" on DK in tournaments. Torn between Suggs and Smart.
Oh, sucks.
Smart at 6. Is he 6'5"? That seems too much. He's 6K. Even that might be too much.
It's definitely Suggs, even though he's going to be the higher owned one. If that's really the 1v1 that you're debating, it's 100% Suggs.
Yeah, Danny wants to know Tatum or Brown, and like they're different price points. I don't know. I mean, Tatum, if like salary is not a thing, but of course salary is a thing. We do live in the world with salary cap. We'll talk about Boston in a second, but did you have is it a preference amongst those two? Because again, I
would tell that person that if try to wait on this Golden State news, and if you get all that ton of value, then definitely play Tatum. And if you have to go a little bit more balanced, then play Brown. But yeah, obviously you prefer Tatum, right? Straight up.
Sure. Official Orlando lineup, no surprise here. Suggs, Franz Wagner, Okiki, Bol, and Bamba. That just dropped. All right, we're getting news for Tuesday nights, so I should be ignoring that. Let's talk about Portland and Milwaukee. 213.5 is the total. Milwaukee is a 9-point favorite here. Unfortunately for Portland, Lillard is hurt once again. He's not going to be playing basketball tonight. Milwaukee, maybe we'll get Pat Connaughton to make his debut tonight. We'll see. That doesn't matter a heck of a lot, but like he's just kind of been in and out in anticipation. He's not on the injury report right now, for what it's worth. Middleton not ready just yet to make his debut. Wes Matthews out. Who cares? Giannis Antetokounmpo officially is questionable with his calf. So this is one of those deals, and we've had this situation several times now. And I think with Giannis as well. We had it with Luka, I think, one night too, where like you very, very easily can get to the 12K, 12.4K specifically, play in Giannis because the value is there, and the rest of your lineup is still fine. But the 8K and 9K stuff and 10K stuff is pretty good, and I don't even know what's being prioritized. I think it's a little different depending on the site. FanDuel, we got Giannis like 11.4 or 11.2. I think it's like a little bit of a price hit. He seems more playable on FanDuel than on DK. You can get Giannis on DK. Is that a priority, though?
Yeah, absolutely not. He's not a priority. The whole like 5.5 to like 7.4 price range is absolutely like loaded today. So the whole balanced build. So yeah, right now I'm looking at building like a balanced build with like, and then add on like Kuminga with a guy who's like maybe a little bit higher than that quote balanced price range, but not as high as Giannis. So for me, I'm not prioritizing him, and I think I know that we're beating a dead horse here, but it's all going to depend on if we lose Wiggins and then we gain like JaMychal Green or something like that. That's when you get into this kind of tricky, kind of like 2v2s and 3v3s that include guys like Giannis or guys like Jason Tatum. But as it sits right now, I don't think Giannis is a priority play.
Yeah, I'm going to play him on FanDuel. I don't know if I'm going to play him on DK. 11.3 on FanDuel, 12.4 on DK. As of a couple hours ago, and again, if you have RG Premium, this will get updated soon enough. Of course, before lock, the projection team is always kind of on top of this. They'll push it soon, I'm sure. But we're looking at just 5% on DK. And I think that changes. I don't know how dramatically much higher it's going to get. And on FanDuel, we're looking at 20% for Giannis. I'm not in on 20% Bobby Portis we're seeing on FanDuel. I think that's a little too high. I mean, Portis is fine, I suppose. Like he's okay, but I don't. Do you see that? I mean, are you in on that? That doesn't seem necessary to me.
I agree with you. That seems high. I think that they haven't accounted for Orlando yet. I think he's one of the guys that'll drop.
That'll change. Yeah. It'll all change. But I saw it coming up. That's a good point to make. TJ is in chat. What's up, TJ? Is he following us? I don't think so, right? I don't think TJ is on Crunch Time today. Crunch Time, of course, is free this year thanks to FanDuel. You all get Roth, Will, and SDL cards. So TJ's just hanging out. What's up, TJ? He's saying, you know what? Well, I don't know why Anthony Simons is so low projected.
I was just going to say that.
I know why, because the sites were proactive. But look at it. Look at Simon's price on FanDuel. He's 8-1. That's the reason. This is not like he's a bargain. They preemptively boosted him up when they saw Lillard was out. Now on DK he's 7'4". That's a little bit more playable. There's a threat of a blowout here. I don't think it's like that's not a lock and load to me. I understand, of course, Lillard's out. Simons, it's going to be his show, but I don't think. TJ's on an NFL show today. Oh yeah, there's a showdown. There's a game in Mexico tonight. It's Arizona versus San Fran. Get excited. Yeah, I think Simons is okay, but I don't. It's not like typically in years past or months past, whatever, we would say, okay, Lillard's out. There's got to be this awesome value jumping on Portland, and it's not there. It's fine, but I don't see it. You tell me.
So just like Jared Allen, early in the day, Simons is one of my favorite tournament plays on the whole slate. And then the other thing that I wanted to ask you about is, like, how are they only 9-point dogs? Right? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. It almost feels like Vegas is like just like begging me to bet the Bucks. But I mean, it's like it doesn't make any sense to me that they think that this game's going to stay within that kind of like, single digit range, which almost makes me want to play Simons even more, because I thought this spread would be significantly higher. So I don't know. Like, I think he makes for a really great tournament play.
Yeah, sure. Again, I'm not here saying it's not. I just think that it's to suggest it's like there's some sort of like lock and load, like it's Simon's season.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not Simon's season, but it's. I think he's worth getting a little bit over the field in GPPs.
I think our current projection for Poole is greater than our projection for Simons, and Simons is almost 2K more, right? So. It's more Poole season before it is Simon season, and they're both in a similar big dogs.
I would like to find a way to play both, though.
You can. Yeah, you can do that. No, if you play both, Joe, you feel like you got to run back Giannis?
I don't think you have to.
TJ just said that. Actually, it's funny. I just saw. I didn't see that when I asked the question. He said I would play Simons at 100% of the lineups. I play Giannis. I don't disagree with that. I think that's not a bad thought. You need Simons with Giannis. You don't necessarily need Giannis with Simons. Wait. Yeah, you don't have to play Simons if you're playing Giannis.
Right.
And then there's the other fringe guys. We've seen Jeremy Grant have some really big days this year, like some slate winning days for sure. Some of those were with Nurkic being out. The minutes for Nurkic this year have been all over the place, mostly bad.
I would imagine that this would be a pretty horrible matchup for Jeremy Grant. But
yeah,
I don't have any interest in any of the other Portland players other than Simon.
Do we have Sharp starting? Yeah, we have Sharp starting for what it's worth. But I mean, Winslow is going to be at the backup across the board for. I feel like he backs up like every position. Pretty versatile guy.
That's true. Yeah.
Anything else of note in this game that we should kind of point out?
I don't have any interest in any of the Milwaukee pieces other than Giannis.
That's where I'm at as well. Holiday came off the bench last game, which was a little bit weird, but he's still priced pretty high. I like him, but just salary means so much, and there's nothing that really suggests that like this is going to be a Holiday smash spot. Let's talk about New York and OKC. This is a big boy total, 230. And OKC is just a 1.5 point favorite here. So this is the classic, high and tight game. This is the classic, great for DFS. I don't know if it's great necessarily for actually viewing basketball. Well, no, there's some good basketball players in this game. I shouldn't say that. SGA, like he's just amazing. He's a lot of fun to watch. So somebody was asking in the chat as far as New York. We'll talk about that in a second. They were talking about the minutes, and we have 6 minutes projected for Quentin Grimes. You're like, well, how is Quentin Grimes projected for 6 minutes? Well, because the projection team is not ruling out Cam Reddish. Cam Reddish is currently questionable. And yeah, last time we saw Cam Reddish not play and Quentin Grimes, I believe, be jumping the starting line and play 32 minutes or so. Now that could change. But as of right now, we can't assume, the projection team can't assume that that's what's going to happen. So stay tuned. If you're running, and then they're just hedging there, by the way, because there's a chance that if Reddish plays, like Grimes plays 0 minutes. Like that's possible. I think they're just hedging, just throwing a few his way. Derrick Rose also is questionable. He's got an old toe, so he's questionable. So both those guys, if they're out, their backcourt can be a little bit thin. The Knicks have basically fully given up on Evan Fournier. The other day, like 13 guys wearing Knicks jerseys played basketball, none of which named Evan Fournier. He's like officially buried on that team. It's not happening. They have 4 different centers now, like the Hartenstein, Robinson, Sims, Toppin. I'm not messing with any of that. I don't think. Are you messing with any of that nonsense?
I've tried so many times with Hartenstein this year, and it just never works out. So I am done trying to figure that out. I do have interest in this game, though, quite a bit of interest in Jalen Brunson and RJ Barrett. And this is just another example of this balanced build that we have right now. And I'm really hoping the Golden State doesn't ruin it for us. I think that these are the type of plays that make it that Giannis isn't a priority for me. Like it's just like guys like Josh Giddey is another one on the other side of this game. Again, another person who's in that kind of balanced price range. So this was at a time my favorite kind of like game stat. But obviously Golden State has changed the complexity of the slate.
Hey, a little bit off the board here. Dex has a question. Bamba, we already talked about Bamba. Clarkson, we haven't talked about yet. Strus, we haven't talked about yet. In DK tournaments, I think my favorite out of that grouping is Clarkson, actually. I guess that's utility. I assume that's utility.
Yeah.
Bamba, Clarkson or Strus. I think Clarkson's my favorite.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You can disagree, please.
Well, it's definitely not Strus for me.
Yeah.
So, and if Bamba will definitely be the highest owned. But
really? I thought Clarkson was going to be kind of popular today. Is that changed?
He will be, but I mean, Clarkson's 6.4K, and we have so many point guard, shooting guards in that same price range. I don't know how his ownership can get that out of hand.
Yeah, fair enough. You might be right.
Right? I mean, we have Poole, we have Giddey, Brunson. I'm sure there's a couple more guys here that we've. I mean, I like Simons. He's in that range.
You say that implying I don't. You heard what I said.
Oh, and then we have Suggs. I knew there was one more, and Suggs.
Yeah.
All in that same price range.
Yeah.
So I don't see how anyone's ownership in that group is going to get too out of hand.
Corey wants to know if Winslow's playing. Yeah, Winslow's expected to play for Portland. I haven't seen anything for him not to play. We're projecting him not to start for what it's worth. That may change. It's possible he could start. Yeah, so the other side of this game, as far as New York goes, let's talk about OKC. Do we only care about basically 2 players, Giddey and SGA?
Yeah.
We could talk to Jalen Williams, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, I had interest in Jalen Williams early in the day, but that's completely zapped now. I have no interest in him. There's way better value now. So I don't have any interest in anybody else other than SGA or Giddey.
Yeah. Build a little game stack here. Like, how would you do it?
I would have to go RJ Barrett, and then Josh Giddey, something like that, because point guard is so deep today. I don't know if I can honestly prioritize Brunson. I would rather get to Barrett. So I think that's who I would first start playing. Is Barrett with Giddey.
I want to start with SGA. I know he's the most expensive.
Yeah, or you go SGA and Barrett.
Yeah, I mean he's taken such a leap forward this year. 1.46 Fanduel points per minute, 1.43. Like he was awesome last year, like 1.25 or something like that. And Giddey coming back hits him a little bit, but not enough where I'm not, I can't play him. The price is still pretty fair, and you can kind of argue he's still a tick too cheap, maybe, if he keeps this up. 1.43, 1.46. The matchup against New York, he's not this great 3-point shooter. He doesn't fire a bunch of threes, but New York yields a ton of threes. But Michael in chat was talking about Milwaukee. Yes, historically they would give up threes. Not this year. They're like bottom 5 as far as yielding 3-pointers made. So they corrected something. as far as the Bucks. Their defense is just tough to pick on in general. Giddey at 1.12 on DK, 1.05 on FanDuel. Price is pretty fair. This is a rematch of a game they played? Was it last week? Did they score like 100? Didn't OKC put like 140 on New York? Something goofy like that? Am I wrong to say that? I think it was a massive total. Now I'm pulling up it was in the weekend, so I didn't play this game. 145, 135. Yeah, defense optional. SGA put 37 actual points in the bucket. He was awesome.
I wonder if you can go SGA and Giddey and Barrett.
I mean, you can do that. Are you going to get a ceiling game out of both those two? Possibly. I mean, if they put up 145, you are.
Right.
Probably. I'll take the under on 145 for what it's worth. But New York's playing faster this year, so they're
New York's like a completely different team now.
Brunson running the show. Did you mention Brunson? I feel like you didn't talk about him.
Well, I mean, I did, but I mean, it's just there's just so many guys in that price range that I don't know if I can. Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to prioritize him over all the other guys in that price range. But he's just another example of this really, really amazing mid-range kind of range of guys that we have.
Mr. Richard in chat's asking about Jalen Williams. Is too thin of a value now on DK. Yeah, like if the Golden State Warriors are playing straight up, things will be different. If Miami was fully healthy, things might be different. I just think he's fallen back as the days is progressed. Like our projection on him is okay. 4.3K. We have a 23.45 fantasy point projection on DK. That's like fine generally, but every slate is different. And is 23 fantasy points not that you can't get more, obviously, but is that useful tonight? Probably not. Probably not useful.
I think that's exactly well said. Like I don't think that 23 out of 4,300 is going to be enough tonight.
Yeah, I mean it's not going to bury you, but it's and again he can put up.
It might though. I mean, it really might.
Well, yeah, if you're playing him in lieu of like a warrior like 10 X's, then it might bury you. Correct.
Right. Yeah.
And I apologize. I was reading chat. Did you touch on Randall as well? Did you mention him in passing?
I didn't. He's fine. He's going to be super, super low owned, which is intriguing and on this game that we really like. If you want to get to win tournaments, I have no issue with it. Me being a single entry player, I'm not going to be getting it.
Shout out to Chris Jr. 03. You won yourself a week free of RotoGrinders Premium. All you did was connect your RG account. Doesn't have to be a premium account, any account, to the Discord channel, rotogrinders.com/Discord, the live stream chat channel. You hit that bell. You won yourself a week free. Devin will contact you and hook you up. He'll get you juiced up. And we usually run these, no promise, but typically Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they sort of come up spontaneously. Anything going on as far as body parts? Let's see. Cleveland starting Garland, Mitchell, Stevens, Mobley, and Allen. No surprise there. Still waiting on Golden State. Still waiting on Miami. We got 3 more games to knock out. Crunch time crew, they're in the bullpen. They're coming in about 15, 20 minutes, depending on. We'll see. We'll see who's an early arrival for the crunch time crew.
Which gives me the perfect chance to interrupt you.
Can I get categories at least? Let me pick a category. You're
hell no.
You're boxing me in these things. I'm like smart people though. I know the dumb like pop culture stuff.
All right, Dean. I want you to tell me everything you know about the dancing plague of 1518.
Well, John Lithgow was very much like this is what John Lithgow warned us against in Footloose. This is why he said this. Kevin Bacon, he just got a little too frisky. This is why you don't dance. This is why dancing has to be banned at the prom. John Lithgow was right. It turns out 500 years before Footloose even came out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does anybody get my Footloose reference?
I like that you twisted it into a Footloose monologue. So that's good.
That is the basis of Footloose, right? I don't think I've ever seen Footloose. I've heard things over the years. But yeah, John Lithgow was a preacher, and he didn't want dancing in his town, in a small town.
Right. Yeah, it's the most 80s of 80s concepts of all time. Like that an entire town would outlaw dancing. But just to give you a little history lesson, the dancing plague of 1518 happened in Strasbourg, where people literally 50 to 400 people just started dancing and could not stop dancing, and they would just start dropping dead.
What? Is this this is based on a true story, or is this like Rudy?
No, this is a real thing. Rudy didn't dance to death. Not yet.
They were offsides when they were dancing.
Yeah, so if you ever were wondering, one of the weirdest plagues of all time, the dancing plague of 1518.
You couldn't have given me the black one, the black plague, the what's the other chalk plagues? Black plague is the first one you think of, right?
Yeah, I mean that's
the
the one that just wiped everybody out.
Yeah. And that one I couldn't. I think rats. Wasn't it rats to blame? Like rats on the ships. I think that's
one of the theories.
Bubonic, Derek, and yeah, of course, that's on the board. Forgot about the bubonic plague. Yeah.
The bubonic plague is the black plague.
Oh, is it?
Black Death. Yes.
Didn't know that.
Yes.
This is why I sidetracked the conversation to talk about Footloose, which I never saw, but I'm just aware it existed.
That's your next movie before you, Daigle, and on that show. Make them watch Footloose, the original one.
Let's talk about Boston and Chicago. 229 is a total here. Boston is a 5-point favorite in Chicago tonight, Tim. As far as the body parts that we're monitoring, as far as who's in and who's out in this particular game, Marcus Smart expected to be good to go, so Boston is fully healthy, like fully as healthy as they've been the entire season. Robert Williams obviously not walking through that door anytime soon. And Chicago is fully healthy. Again, no Lonzo Ball, not happening. This is one of those weird games, Tim. Like, there's no reason to go out of our way to play anybody because there's nobody getting a bump on whatever their standard season-long, averages are. But that doesn't mean that Jason Tatum can't drop a 70 burger on Chicago. We have pretty good prices. Levine is like $7K on DK. I think he's 6'9" on FanDuel. I know he hasn't been spectacular, but that's kind of baked into the price. And the matchup's not great either. Battling against the likes of Smart and White. This is a tricky game though, because there's no reason to play it outside of I have money and sure, let's get some Jaylen Brown, let's get some Tatum. Like these guys are just good plays.
Yeah, I think that it's pretty much just Brown and Tatum as price point plays. Like if you don't quite have the money to get to Giannis or something like that, then you can put in Tatum. But I don't know how much I'd honestly have of any of this game, no matter what, however many lineups I was going to be making. Like if I'm playing 20, how much Tatum am I really going to have? Like maybe 2 at the most.
Yeah.
So I would X Marcus Smart right out of my player pool. Same thing with Al Horford. Same thing with Grant Williams. So then it comes down to maybe 5% of Brown, 5% of Tatum if I'm making 20 or more lineups. But I think even then, maybe that's too much. So as you would say, maybe just a sprinkle, but nothing. I wouldn't get too out of hand with this.
We are getting some ownership, and we did get an ownership update for what it's worth. We're getting some ownership on Tatum on FanDuel in the teens, Horford in the teens. He's just cheap enough, 5.5K. I tend to not play Horford unless I have to play Horford, so I'm probably not playing Horford. Levine, I mentioned the price is pretty good. 6.9 over there on FanDuel, almost 16% as far as the ownership projection. DK a little bit less. Levine at 13%, Vuk at 10, Tatum less than 10 at 9 and change. Brown at 7, Horford not as appealing over there at 5%. Yeah, I mean, if I can make a great lineup and I have the money for Tatum, I'm not going to blow it up. I'll just say, okay, I guess I'll play Tatum. But I'm not starting my lineup with, let me start with Tatum and work around it, if that makes sense. And we're building by hand.
Right.
Question in chat. It's a good question for you, Tim, because they're not aware. You play a lot of 3-entry max, little single entry stuff. Cloud wants to know, I play a lot of single entry while using a GPP mindset. Am I doing that wrong? Should you have the GPP mindset? I've had a lot of success doing it that way, but is it that I'm just getting lucky? So, he wants to know, how do you build your single entry, 3-entry max? I've heard Kirkwood sort of say cash games on steroids. I like that thought process. And I would just say that I like maybe I'll take a stand on, I like these 2 players in this one game playing against each other. Going to be 10% owned. I'll hit the lock button and I'll just kind of hit the optimizer and see what I get around it. And maybe I'll X one person out and say one more I definitely like, and then see what that's sort of how I build mine, if that makes sense. Well, what's your stance as far as making your single entry, 3-entry max? Is it straight GBP or it's not large field?
It's definitely not straight GPP, but I do like Kirkwood's analogy that it's kind of like cash games on steroids. I do like that, and then I think that one thing that we forget a lot is like, what are your goals? Are you trying to do this for like a small ROI, or are you trying to win all the dollars? Every single night. Like, that's something that Blender does a really good job talking about, and that's something that he and I don't necessarily disagree on. But I think that someone like Blender, he has said, like, he tries to win all the money every single night. Whereas I, at the end of the year, want to just have a positive ROI. And that's two completely different things. Like, obviously, someone like Blender wants to have a positive ROI also, but the path that you use to get there can be two completely different ways. So
neither one of you guys are wrong. I think it's a really interesting conversation to have.
Right. And I think that gets lost when we just try to pick plays, right? Like, obviously, Jason Tatum can win you all the money, but I don't think he's going to tonight, but he could, so and if you hit him, like Blender says, what do you win when you win, right? Sure. And so when you hit a ceiling like that at a very, very low rate, then you're going to win a lot, right? So that's kind of that's how he wants to play, but that's at the end of the day, that's not how I want to play. So it's kind of, I'm a little bit more conservative, I guess.
Like, there's two different ways to look at it, because you can say, well, you don't have to be that much more different than cash games, right? And we know all, like, the cash game chalk. It's, if somebody's going to be 30 or 40% in cash games, they're going to be 70, 80, 85% in basketball, right? They're going to be super elevated. Like Kuminga, whatever his ownership is in tournaments, it's going to be at least double. Like, if he's 35% in tournaments or 40%, it'd be 80% in tournaments. But, like, one of those things, it goes the other way too, where if Tatum's going to be 12% in tournaments, he's going to be like 4% in single entry.
Right.
And he's not, like, bad. It's not a bad play to have Jason Tatum on your team, right? So it's another way to do it that way. And it's like, so if you can get, if you really, really feel strongly about a player that's going to be somewhat neglected, it's an interesting route to take.
I'm 100% playing Kuminga and Jordan Poole tonight. Like, they're going to be a bazillion % owned in the contest that I play.
Yeah.
But even if they weren't going to be, I mean, I'm just going to play them. And so that it's going to be like a 6v6, right? Against everybody, against the field. And then you kind of start filtering through that 6v6 and wondering and then I start paying more attention to ownership and maybe getting off of some of the other chalky plays and trying to find leverage in like one or two places, right? That's what I try to do. So
it's a good conversation to have. By the way, for football, if you're playing a single entry contest for football, check out Squirrel Patrol and JM to Win. Have a good podcast that comes out on Friday nights. Sometimes they just start talking the slate, but they'll touch on single entry stuff. It's not talked about enough, but I understand why it's not, because people are mostly want to hear about, like, I want to win the millie. How do we win the millie? That's the conversation they want to have, and it's hard to have an overarching conversation in the slate without, because everything has context and we only have so much time and yada, yada. But all right, well, let's talk about these last two games before the crunch time crew comes in knocking on the door. Miami, my Heat, are in Minnesota. They're 10-point dogs, playing in the back half of back-to-back, and they're traveling as well. 220.5 is the total here. Again, they're big dogs here, 10-point dogs. We don't know about Bam Adebayo. He's got a knee. Gabe Vincent's got a knee as well. They're both questionable. Robinson came back last night and injured another body part. He's out. Haslam is still out for personal reasons. Tyler Hero is out. Jimmy Butler's out for several games. So Miami is thin. We're looking at currently 10 players. That's if Bam Adebayo. Oh, I should say Dwayne Dedmon is also questionable with the foot. So theoretically, well, they might pull what they pulled the other night, where they dressed 8, but only 7 would play, and one guy was injured, which is kind of illegal. It's kind of against the rules, but what are they going to do? Cancel the game? And Minnesota, they are fully healthy. It's a fully healthy Minnesota team. Everybody's good to go there. And it's similar predicament with Golden State, where we had the other side of it, like New Orleans. You don't necessarily have to run anything back. I like some of the prices on the Minnesota side. Like Gobert is 6.6 on DK. I think that's pretty good. Edwards is a nice price, both DK and Fanduel. How are you handling this game? And obviously Miami, we're kind of in limbo. Things can get really interesting if several pieces go in the other direction.
Yeah, the more I dig into the slate, the more I feel like you can only play two Orlando plays, right? Like at first I was like, maybe you could even play 4, but I think that that's too aggressive. So, kind of backtracking a little bit, I think you should max 3 Orlando and probably just play 2 because there's so much that is going to change in these 8 o'clock games. So as it sits right now, Jovic for the Heat is probably the most appealing value play, but it's other than I don't have a lot of interest in Strus or Martin, but I don't see how I can honestly prioritize Lowry with just so many point guards in that, unless like the pieces really start falling from Miami.
If he plays 44 minutes, he's fine, right?
Right. So. But as it sits right now, I don't see a reason to prioritize many of these Heat players.
Hey, Jason wants to know Suggs or Giddey.
That's tough, man.
I'll say Giddey if for no other reason it buys you an hour.
Yes,
and basically a tie.
That's exactly what I was about to say. But that's a tough one. Suggs is a really good play today.
Yeah, but I mean, like, is he distinctly better?
No,
I don't think so either.
No, I think you answered that perfectly.
And like, just be prepared. And if you're stuck with Giddey, like Giddey's fine, but you can theoretically, it gives you more parts to work with if certain things crack a certain way. And runbacks on Minnesota, is there anybody like Gobert? Has he ever been cheaper than 6.6? And Jovic will be their center. Like, I mean, if we'll see with Miami, like Dedmon can only play so many minutes if he can play at all. The tricky part with Jovic is he's probably not going to close. I don't think they've let him close yet. They might have let him close last game, but that was a blowout, so I don't remember who closed. It doesn't matter. They lost like 40 or something. But like you got to think Gobert is going to get if Bam doesn't go, that probably boosts him. Also increases the chance of a blowout. But Minnesota side, most appealing play for you.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like Bam being in this game, it makes a huge difference on whether or not I want to get to Gobert or not. Yeah, he is super, super cheap. He's a really good play for tournaments. I have no issue with that. I think he's 15% projected on DK. So I think that's fine. That might be a play that I would just like match the field with.
Suggs or Poole, like it's got to be Poole, right? People are all asking about Suggs. That's interesting. Like
Suggs is
going to be much more owned than Suggs.
The Magic are popping right now. That's why people are asking. The Magic are popping in optimals, and so that's what's tough. That like this Orlando team is like very, very important because you might need to have 3, but chances are there's going to be more like better value that opens up. So it's probably just going to be 2 for me.
Zion available to play as expected. No minutes limit for him. Trey Murphy still questionable. Game time decision. Kevin Love officially in with his thumb. Darius Bazley for OKC is available, as is Trey Mann, as is Isaiah Joe. So OKC has got a lot of nonsense to play with if they want to play with it. More reason for me just to kind of like hone in on basically the 2 players there for Oklahoma. If Bam is in, are you interested in Bam?
Not really.
Okay. And
I think he's
or if Bam doesn't go.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, just want to clarify that. All right, last game on the slate. This is 2.5 hours after everything. Utah at the Clippers. 223 is the total. Clippers are giving up 2 points here. Mike Conley is going to be out for a bit there as far as the Utah side. If you're wondering why, we were talking about Clarkson earlier. Rudy Gay is still out with his hand, and the Clippers without Kennard and Paul George. I believe no, they didn't play yesterday. Never mind. An interesting play in this game for me on FanDuel, I might play some Kawhi at 6K. It's just cheap enough, man. He's probably only going to play 25 minutes, but 25 minutes without Paul George and this, running the show here. Look, 6K. It's cheap enough where I'm going to take a shot, I think.
this game really depends on where you're playing. Like there's like Terrence Mann on Fanduel is a great play because he has small forward eligibility, right? Kawhi Leonard's only 6K. So on Fanduel, I love getting to a couple of these Clippers. DK, it's a lot more challenging because Mann is only point guard, shooting guard, and both those positions are so loaded tonight. But Terrence Mann is a tremendous value on both sites. I just think that he is an absolute priority on FanDuel. But yeah, I agree with you. I love Kawhi on FanDuel.
Yeah, Mann 3.5 on DK, 3.7 on FanDuel. We're assuming he's going to draw the start. We have Javon in chat asking about RJax. You like? I don't like Reggie Jackson. I don't like playing him, so I'm probably not going to give a good answer. I have a bias against him. That's what the word I was looking for.
I know this isn't like hard hitting analysis, but I just can't imagine playing Reggie Jackson tonight at the point guard position. There's so many point guards that I'd much rather play. He'd probably be like ranked like 20th. Like, so I don't see the need to get to him.
THT on Utah, he was popping earlier today. Is he still popping at 3.7?
A little bit, yeah.
We saw him close. I think he was closing last game. The thing is with Utah is you never really know. Now, Conley, you kick him out of the lineup. Sometimes we see Vanderbilt close, and this is what I theorize. Like, it looks like Vanderbilt closes when they're ahead. He's a better defensive player. When they're behind, you'll see a guy like Sexton or THT close. That's kind of the way or Beasley. That's kind of the way I see it. I don't know. I feel good about Clarkson closing. I feel good about Markkanen closing, but Utah in general, man, it's just they have a bunch of guys that are sort of interchangeable. So it's hard to sort of figure whose day it is. Did you like THT now as a cheapie? What about Sexton as a cheapie?
I think Sexton's a little thin at this point of the day. Earlier, I had a little bit of interest. I kind of feel like that with THT also. He's fine, but I think that they're just better value now.
Crunch Time Crew coming in momentarily. How do you feel about Powell on DK? Mr. Richards asking about Powell on DraftKings specifically. How much is Powell? They like him as a six-man coming off the bench. 4.3.
Yeah, he's 4.3. I mean, I think we have projected for 18%.
Yeah.
That I don't think I really want that. No, I don't know. I guess if it's your last piece, you can do it, but I'm not.
John Wall's coming off a really good game. Are we going to chase that at all? What do you got? A pile of assists, 15 assists. He had 10 at the half. I remember 5.9 on DK, 6.1 on Vandal. Kind of the most expensive he's been all season long. I don't like that price. I guess like how many did they give him 28 minutes before? I guess that's possible. What are we predicting as far as minutes?
I don't think I can do John Wall. This is not the right slate.
Anthony Simons or Giddy from Horace in chat. I think that's Simons.
I think it's Simons if you're wanting to get some leverage in like a larger field tournament.
And especially if you're playing Giannis.
Yes.
Shobo King says THC going to get 4 or 30. Yeah.
Right. And like, why take that risk tonight? Right. That's why
he can get 30. He can put 20.
I guess, but we have guys that are like solidified in their minutes. So that's the issue that I have. Gabe Vincent ruled out.
Yeah. So is the rest of it dropping right now too?
Bam on track to play.
Okay. What about Dedmon?
On track.
Okay, so their big men are okay. So obviously not as strong a play for Gobert, but the game also more likely to stay close. I think that means they have 9 bodies, if I'm doing my math right. But we should have the Crunch Time Crew coming in momentarily.
Yeah, they're here. They're ready to go. We've learned a lot about basketball today. We've learned a lot about
Footloose.
The movie Footloose. We've learned a lot about the dancing plague of 1518. Should we bring in the Crunch Time Crew for you guys to do a crossover?
To be fair, I forgot everything you said about the dancing plague. They somehow got hurt dancing too long. They just died like on the spot.
They couldn't stop dancing 50 to 400 people. It was a plague, Dean. It's a plague.
The side effect is dancing?
Yeah, and they couldn't stop, and they would just drop dead after a few days.
Did they even have music in 1508? Like, what kind of music do they have?
Yeah,
there's no like DJ in the corner, right?
That track was hard in 1518.
Good.
Just so you know.
All right, Roth. We got Will. We got STL cards. Roth, you missed a great show. I'm not sure if you want to learn more about the plague of 1815, the dancing plague, or Footloose. Kevin Bacon. And
honestly, I've never been more disappointed that I missed a show than hearing the recap of this show. Like, I'm definitely tuning in tomorrow. I can tell you that.
Rob just basically exposed how dumb I am. I know nothing when it comes. I'm not very cultured. I knew nothing about Mount Vesuvius or the plague of 1552, give or take. And there's something else. Oh, the goddess Nike. Didn't even know Nike was a goddess, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, oh no, I was thinking marathon, right? Does that have something to do with marathon? Am I making this up?
I don't know. Rob, feel free to chime in.
This is all just disappointing. Like whatever is going on right now.
Apparently, I'm an idiot too, Dean.
We're just gonna start doing RotoGrinders history streams where I just educate the masses.
Here's the good news. We're good at giving fantasy sports advice, and that's what we're here to do. So,
Tim, you got anything else for the boys, or shall we make way for the Crunch Time crew?
I think we're good. Thanks, Dean.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a fun conversation. Hope people and like we appreciate y'all hanging out and chatting. Asking the questions so they come up organically. It breaks up all the game by game kind of nonsense. We got to knock that out as well too. Kindly hit that like button before the Crunch Time sponsor by Fanduel starts with cheap meteorologist Kevin Roth and Will and Justin. It starts right now. Go for it, Roth.
Let's get it. Appreciate it, Dino. As always, excellent stuff from the flagship program, as they like to say. But now, this is the moneymaker. This is crunch time. This is big time now. It is indeed sponsored by FanDuel, by the by. Two of the sharpest minds in the biz. Joining me, one, it is Mr. STL Cards. Cards, how you feeling, man?
Hey, doing pretty good. It's holiday week, so nice and relaxing and getting ready for the big football slate coming up on Thursday. We got a couple days of hoops before we get that little break. So, yeah, should be some fun slates here the next 2 nights. Filling in for Means right in the article today. And then, our approach to the article now is that we kind of just do a little bit of news in the morning, and then once it gets past lunchtime, we kind of take our good shot at when the best time is to fill out all the information and the notes and do all the writing. And so I did that today. I filled out the notes like 9 a.m. Dragged my feet a little while, kind of waiting for news to drop. Finished the article at like 1:30, and then about 5 minutes after I finished it, the Warriors ruled everybody out. And I had to redo, half of it with the Warriors ruling guys out. So you know what? It's Monday. This stuff happens to Andy all the time. Sometimes it happens to me on the weekends. But I chose a very poor time. If I would have just waited like another 20 minutes to start, I wouldn't have had to can half the stuff to replace it with the Golden State news. But it is what it is. We're there now. And now we've got a slate that was originally going to be kind of more of a tough slate, a balanced slate. And now you got all sorts of value, and it's more of a stars and scrubsy night. So it'll be up your alley there, Roth.
Very good. That's what I was about to say. Meansy complains about that all the time. He does the whole write-up, upset. Then the news happens. Then he does a whole other write-up. Then more news happens. It's just this constant, never-ending flow of writing things up. So we feel your pain there. Certainly, Meansy does. We also, for some hot tournament takes, we got the one, the only, the Chief in the building. Chief, how you feeling?
I'm good, man. I think I end up talking about my son because it's basketball season, and he's playing basketball right now. And man, they blew a team out pretty bad before the show. I left right after the end of the game. I mean, I think they won like 60-5 or something. I mean,
they weren't. They didn't keep the full court press on, did they?
No, I mean they quit. They didn't even press at all during the game.
Okay,
like
good.
Zero. Man, I mean, I don't think I've seen a beatdown like that in a while. But that was my my basketball experience prior to the show. Obviously, I was prepared for the show before I left. Just wanted to come back and catch the news.
Yeah, what's it like being on your side of the beatdown? Like being on the good side of the beatdown, where you're like, "Oh, this is awesome," or like, "Oh, this is terrible," or I feel so bad.
I did feel pretty bad. Like once the game, usually in basketball, once you get up by about 30 in high school, like it's you've pretty much got the game in hand.
Yeah.
And I mean, I could tell the guys were like not trying to play tight defense, and the guys just weren't. The other team just didn't hit shots. We get a rebound. Like they were trying to not score points in the second half, but then they make a bad rotation. Somebody be wide open. It was just like, I mean, they couldn't help but beat them like really bad, and they weren't trying to. So it was interesting. But yeah, they played pretty well. They actually won a tournament over the weekend. At another high school, so they're pretty good right now. So we're going to see how the rest of the season goes.
Yeah, well, what we need, Chief, is the NBA equivalent of your son's team, and we need it tonight. So that's your job. You got to figure out who's dropping the, I guess the NBA equivalent would be 150 points, and who's just running somebody out of the building. So we got to figure that out. Let's talk about this slate here real quick. By the way, I would be foolish if I did not point out that this show is sponsored by the one and only FanDuel. The FanDuel Single Entry Series is back for NFL. Reserve your entry, $5, $33, $33, or $100 tier. Get in on the action, weekly and seasonal prizes. Also, sign up for the FanDuel Sportsbook for an illegal sports betting state. Take advantage of their awesome bonus offer. New customers get the no sweat first bet up to $1K. That's good stuff there. I am a new customer, and I need to go to Louisiana where I can sports bet. Get my no sweat first bet up to $1K. I need to make that happen. Okay, Dedmon from Miami is available to play. Just hearing that from Stan. It seems like that wouldn't matter, but maybe it does. But Cards, you are more informed than I, so talk me through the slate.
Yeah, that really doesn't move the needle a whole lot. Maybe it would have a little earlier in the day. It kind of changes the matchup a little bit. We got to go. Hang on. I was just making sure we had the screen grab up on there, so we're good.
Mm-hmm.
So the Warriors is the big news of the day. They ruled out Curry, Thompson, and Draymond Green around a little after lunchtime.
It's a pool party, isn't it? It's a pool party.
It's a pool party. And Wiggins and Looney are questionable, so they were TBA to attend the pool party. Who knows? But this is the second game of a back-to-back for Golden State. They played last night.
Wiggins is out. Just got that news.
Yep. Wiggy.
See, this is what my whole day has been. I speak something, and then it just changes like 30 seconds later. So Wiggins is out. Is Looney out? I might as well just say Looney is questionable, and now he's going to be out about 10 seconds later. That's how it's going to roll.
Yeah, and I got the notification, so it just came on my phone. But I nothing about Looney yet.
It'll come in about 30 seconds. Don't worry. All right. So 4 of the 5 starters are out. Basically, everybody's out for the Warriors. So that's where you're going to be looking for value tonight. Your lineups are going to have, your cash game lineups for sure are probably going to have at least 3 of them in it. Projections have Wiggins still in there right now. Those will obviously change over the course of the next 30 minutes. So Golden State's the big news. Wendell Carter is out again for Orlando, so potentially some value with their bigs there. And the Heat are a little bit thin still, but with Dedmon active and Adebayo active, it's mainly just Vincent and Butler that they're missing, though, they're still going to operate a pretty tight rotation. So those are the big spots. It is a slate that, the lineup building, particularly for cash games, comes together fairly easily now. Was not the case earlier today, but certainly does at the moment. So we got to keep an eye out for the Looney news. I'd be surprised if he plays since 4 other starters are all sitting, but who knows? Not going to guess on that until we know more. But again, stars and scrubs slate tonight.
Okay, very good. For what it's worth, in the chat here, Chris says Looney is probable. So,
well, let's clear that up because they said they expect, and these are the RG alerts, by the way.
Yeah. Okay.
Expect Looney on Monday. Expect them to start. JaMychal Green will start if Looney is out. So that's Steve Kerr, Steve Popovich at his final.
Steve Popovich. I like that. Okay.
I wouldn't be going trusting Looney, given that the other starters are out.
Sure. So even if he's in, they could And is that a concern about Poole, I suppose? Cards that
I mean, I don't think so. In the other games earlier in the year where they rested guys, they gave Poole like, look, somebody's got to play.
Yeah.
They're basically going to be down to about an 8-man rotation. And their only other guards, if you assume they're going to start Poole and maybe DiVincenzo, like Moses Moody and Ty Jerome are really their other guards. So I'm not concerned about Poole. It's a valid point, given that, if they decide they just want to punt the game. I suppose if they get blown out, it's a concern. They wouldn't play him in the fourth quarter. But he only played 24 minutes last night, so I'm not super concerned about him.
Okay, and he's so good. That guy's so good at basketball. Okay, well, let's kind of do a cash build if you don't mind here, and we'll start on FanDuel cards.
Yeah, so I mentioned it comes together a lot easier now, particularly at the guard spots, because there are guards everywhere that grade out really well tonight. And I don't think you want to be getting too cute with your guard picks on FanDuel tonight. So really, it's probably among these top 4 that I have highlighted here, and that would be Poole, SGA, Giddey, and Clarkson. So OKC gets a matchup against the Knicks. The Knicks have been terrible defensively. They're on a back-to-back. They got blown out by Phoenix yesterday. OKC has a 116-point team total. One of the first times you see them with a number that high. So I do like the Thunder tonight. Clarkson benefits from Conley being out for Utah. And then there's a drop-off in kind of the point per dollar projections for some of these guards. And you'll notice that all of them are point guard and shooting guard eligible. You're basically getting...
You got 4 people, you got 4 spots there.
Right. And I think you have to play Poole. And then, I play all 4. But I tagged Poole, I tagged SGA. I'm probably for sure playing one of the other 2. But the guard spots just come together so easily on FanDuel. You still got $6,000 per player. I think you're playing those guys as your guards in cash games. And then the front court becomes a little bit more kind of where contests are going to be won and lost tonight. I'll come back to some of the Warriors guys in a minute, but Kuminga is the clear play. He's basically min salary. We've got him projected for 32 minutes. The last time he got that kind of run, he was over 30 fantasy points. He's 4K. Like, you just play him. From there, it becomes a conversation because the power forward and center spots aren't all that exciting. So I haven't tagged anybody at power forward and center. I tagged a couple of the guards. I tagged Kuminga. I think those are the locks. And then you're probably playing one of Nikola Jovic or Mo Bamba, or somebody else from Golden State, depending on how the projections update with Looney and Wiggins. But Bamba is going to project the best now with Carter out, so maybe you play him. But then I think the power forward spots are where people are really going to get make or break tonight. You're going to see a lot of 2v2s, 3v3s. Do you trust Kawhi Leonard? I mean, I can't answer the question of whether or not you absolutely need to play him in cash games because he wasn't very good the other night when he came back, and he's probably only going to play about 25 minutes, but Paul George is out. So,
what's the salary, Kawhi?
He's only 6K on FanDuel, so I mean, I think he's in play. Comparatively speaking, he's more expensive. Let me pull up his player card. He's 7,700 on DraftKings, so I don't think you're playing him there. But 6K on FanDuel puts him in the cash game conversation. Jared Allen in the cash game conversation, though he's been bad the last few games. Marcus Morris should pick up the most playing time with Paul George out. Jovic has been playing well for Miami, with Butler out, though they have gotten some big guys back. Like, I had Jovic tagged a little bit earlier. I removed that. I don't think he's a must now. And it kind of comes down to how you feel about Kawhi. And, if it's my gut, you're probably playing him on FanDuel. You're probably not playing him on DraftKings. And then if I come back to the other, because people are going to ask again about these Warriors guys, and maybe our projections will be fully updated by the time we get over to DK. But Moses Moody's only 3,800. I mean, he's going to play 30-plus minutes now. JaMychal Green's probably going to play 28, 30 minutes. Ty Jerome's going to play more minutes now. So I'll see what the projections look like once we get the full update. It looks like they're kind of rolling it through now with Wiggins out. But I think Kuminga and Poole are the guys you play for sure. And from there, we'll have to see what projections look like after the update.
What's your gut say about like Moody, Green, Jerome?
So To me, it comes down to positions. Jerome and Moody are guards, and the guard spots are kind of already spoken for me tonight. So I'd prefer to play Green or DiVincenzo, who is small forward eligible on FanDuel. That's kind of important. But those guys would benefit more if it was Looney that was out and not necessarily Wiggins that's out. So that's kind of a bummer there, which is why right now I think it's only Poole and Kuminga for sure. Moody would be my third choice, but he's tougher to fit with the way those guard positions break. And then probably Green after that.
Okay, very good. Chief, let's talk some tournaments. And I hate to do this to you already, but we kind of got to get on our pony here and get moving because we're running behind schedule. So talk to me about your tournament plans on FanDuel.
I'll highlight it by game and maybe less player. So I think the Boston Bulls game is a big-time tournament spot. Pretty good total. I expect this game to be a little bit tighter than people expect. Boston's not playing the same defense they've been playing last year. So a guy like Zach LaVine at 6,900, I think is squarely in play tonight. Pretty cheap there. Another game that I really like is actually this Heat Timberwolves game. I think with all the pieces that are missing, you can definitely get some of those guys on both sides. Still like Karl-Anthony Towns at 8,700 on FanDuel. I think that's fairly cheap for his upside. He's not going to be as consistent game to game this season, I don't think. But generally speaking, he should be able to get there. And then this Orlando Pacers game, I think, is another really good one, which we've got a fair amount of ownership on the Orlando guys like Suggs and Wagner. But then on the other side, we've got 20% on Halliburton, and then that's about it. Part of that is because Miles Turner is very expensive, but I don't think I'd be shying away from Halliburton in this matchup.
Okay, very good. Well, then I guess we'll kick it right on over to DK. So, Cards, you want to walk us through it? I hope it's as easy as FanDuel. Man, FanDuel felt like I'm mad I don't play a ton on FanDuel. Because it's our sponsor, and it's the best of all the sites. Continue.
It is. It does come together about the same. Let me peek at those. So I just pivoted the screen share over to DraftKings, and let me look at those Golden State projections. So if I sort by minutes, so we got Poole at 36, Kuminga at 32, DiVincenzo's up by 32, so that's a bump of about 10 minutes that we had on Wiggins. Moody is up to about 28. And then we've still got JaMychal Green at 23, but you can see the ownership we got on those guys. Still just 8 on DiVincenzo, 10 on Moody, 10 on Green. The part that I don't mind about Moody on DraftKings is that he has small forward eligibility over there.
Ooh,
I still
nice.
don't think he's an absolute must because you don't necessarily need it. Like, if I'm playing Kuminga and I'm playing Poole, and then let's pick out somebody else that grades out really well from a point per dollar perspective. Mo Bamba or maybe Norman Powell. Like, I've got $7,000 per player left to spend, and it's not like you absolutely have to spend up on a ton of guys tonight. We don't have a lot of ownership on the top range, which again makes this a little bit intriguing for tournaments, but I still like SGA the most given that matchup. So there's not a whole lot of differences in price that are going to affect your cash game build outside of maybe Kawhi. I'm not playing him at 7,700 on DraftKings. So if you look at, the point guards, Poole is there, SGA is there, Giddey is there. Suggs grades out pretty well on DraftKings at 6,300. Kyle Lowry has turned back the clock with Butler out. I don't love paying $7,200 for Kyle Lowry, but I mean, he played 50 minutes in that overtime game last weekend. Then he played 31 minutes the next game, and his fantasy point output was 68 and 18. So I would expect him somewhere in the middle of that. And if he gets you 40, it's fine.
It's a solid bet. It's a bold statement. He's going to be somewhere between.
It's going to be somewhere between 18 and 78. I mean,
right. It's
close to the median of those two numbers. Like, extreme outliers on both sides. Like, we've got him projected for 41 in 38 minutes. I mean, if he's going to play that many minutes because they're still shorthanded at the guard spots, I mean, he's fine if he fits in there for you. I don't know. I'm a little nervous because he seems a bit overpriced. But other guys that might be in play, like I like Norman Powell and Terrence Mann a little bit more on DraftKings. They're going to play a good chunk of minutes tonight without Paul George. Point per dollar, I'd take Man. And we've got him projected for a few more minutes as well, and he's only 3,500. You put him in this lineup, you got 7,200 for your final 3 spots on average. So I would probably play Man or Powell ahead of Moses Moody at the moment. And again, you can still play Clarkson as well. He's not as necessary on DraftKings now with the way the build shakes out, but you can still play him. So still prioritizing Poole, Kuminga, SGA as my first kind of spend. And the other plays are largely the same. Not a whole lot of differences in price between the 2 sites tonight.
Whoa, you got to keep going through the build. I need some forward talk here.
Yeah, so the guys, so Kuminga is the lock. Jovic, I'm a little lower on Jovic than most. He's 4K. But it's tough because if Dedmon's going to play, if Adebayo is going to play, I'm a little nervous about whether or not he's going to play those 34 minutes. You can probably sneak a spendy guy in here. And if we've got it sorted by projected ownership, like there's a whole lot of guys around that 10% range. So it can kind of go with what you have for salary, right? In this build here, I've got 7,600 per player. So I can put Towns in there. And then I've got 6,300 for my final spot, which I can certainly fill. I can put Tatum in there. I've got 4,600 for my final spot. It all depends on what you have for salary. I don't have a strong take among these guys. Just whatever helps you finish out your build. Like maybe one of the cheap Clippers guys, Powell, would work with Tatum or something like that. But that's where you're going to see a lot of 2v2s. Again, if you're trying to choose between like Powell and Jovic, and Jalen Williams is another guy who I haven't mentioned. I think Jalen Williams is a little bit better for tournaments, but he's been playing really well for OKC. In cash games, I'd probably still take Powell or Jovic, even though I'm a little lower on Jovic than most. But GPPs, I do like Jalen Williams at 4,300. And then at center, most people are probably going to play Bamba. Center is actually pretty weak tonight. And you can play Kuminga at center on DraftKings. But it's the same guys that have power forward eligibility, Jovic, Kuminga, or Bamba, who I just mentioned. I'd probably play Bamba in cash at 5,800.
Okay, very good. Chief, let's talk tournaments.
Yeah, I'm pretty much going to be in a similar scenario, especially because you got Suggs, Franz Wagner. These guys just seem to be underpriced for what our projections are going to give us on them tonight. So I really like those guys a ton. I do think, me in terms of strategy, like you just hit the lock button on Kuminga. I'm hitting the lock button on Poole, like for sure. Like those two are getting the lock button on DK, like no matter what. And then you're just building around that core group of guys. I think I saw someone mention something about Anthony Simons without Dame. I like him more on DK than FanDuel. I definitely think he's a DK play at 74. I think on FanDuel he's 81, somewhere up in there. I'd much prefer just get my exposure on DK. But then the same thing, man, with this Bulls game, I think it's going to be competitive. Once again, I think Vooch at 7,400 is probably, despite all the production going all over the place, I do think he's a little bit too cheap for the spot. And then because of the Warriors guys, the Miami guys are essentially, they're not going to get as much ownership. And so I still like the Heat here. This game is competitive, just like the other night. I'm not saying it's going to overtime, but Bam at 8K, I think is really good. Caleb Martin, 5,400. Like I don't mind getting in. Maybe I'm not high on Max Strus tonight, but Martin and Bam, I'm in. And so that's kind of my approach in tournaments.
Okay, great. Guys, that actually we went from behind schedule to ahead of schedule here. Anything, Cards, that you feel you need to add? Chief, anything you want to elaborate on?
On his Adebayo take, I do think that's really intriguing for GPPs because he came back last night. He had missed a few games. He came back last night. They kind of eased him back. He only played 26 minutes. And assuming he's good to go tonight, I would expect him. We've got him at 32 minutes. I think that's probably about right.
Yeah.
And with center being fairly weak at the top, You know, if obviously you've got Giannis, but you can play him, I mean, at power forward, and he's 12-4. Like, it is hard to fit Giannis in tonight. If you consider the spends, like the salary range on DraftKings goes from Giannis at 12-4 to Tatum at 10-6. I mean, that's $1,800. So Giannis is tough to fit tonight. And then there's not a whole lot of top end centers. So you consider guys that could get you 50 plus tonight at center. There's not a whole lot of them. So I do like Adebayo and Vucevic as tournament plays, even though most people are probably going to be going in that Bamba, Jared Allen type of range for cash.
Okay, very good. Tournament question for Chief, and then we're going to open it up to everyone, but I get first dibs. Util 7,300. Who's to play?
Right off the if it's Util, I'm assuming they're going late game. I would go with.
It's not. It can be anyone. I don't actually organize it by time.
Oh, okay. I really like Zach Edey tonight for what it's worth. Franz Wagner, you can get him in there. You know, we've got a good projection on him against Indiana. Those are a couple guys I like. Vooch, you can get him too. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's get some QQs in that are not my QQs. Any Simons love? Wait, Simons? There's no Dame tonight? We got to love Simons. Do we not?
Well, I just mentioned that for tournaments. I like him more on DK. DK 7,400. Fanduel is 8,100.
How much money did I just have in the question that I asked you?
70. You were $100 short, I believe.
Damn it! I hate when that happens. Oh yeah. Okay. So yeah, that sounds good to me. Let me jump on over to the RG Discord, of course, and we're going gamble FanDuel cash question cards. This one's for you. Lamb Kawhi or Clarkson Jovic?
Second one.
Very good. Mellow Rose. Thoughts on Zion in FanDuel cash?
I would not play Zion in cash. I think he's a tournament play, but he's a little banged up. He's listed as probable, and I think there is a slight chance that they take it easy on him with Golden State playing the taxi squad tonight. Mm-hmm. You know, the Pelicans are favored by 12 now, so I would be very careful about Zion in cash. I just don't think it's necessary.
Okay, fair enough. G-Man says, DKGPP Chief, Vooch, Brown, or Halliburton, Giddey?
Halliburton, Giddey.
Very good. Hitting up that YouTube chat here. Hoosier says Atlanta Cleveland seems like a sneaky game stack. He also mentions could go OT. I mean, that's really asking for a lot. If you can pick that, I'll give you $100. I won't actually, but any interest in Atlanta Cleveland?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they've got some pieces. You know, with Trey and DeJounte being about the same price, I'm typically right now just going to keep siding with Trey. But I like the game overall. But the guards are very expensive, and that's where most of the production is coming from.
Okay, very good. I love this question from Max in the YouTube chat. He says, Cards, can I run it back with Valanciunas against the small Warriors, or does that matchup versus small ball change it so that the Pelicans go small, so that JVal doesn't? You know, which way do you look at this?
Yeah, it often does. You know, I mean, if he's just asking in general as a GPP thought, I get it. But even in those games where they're not facing the Warriors, we're facing teams with size, right? Their last 3 games, they've played Memphis, they've played Chicago, they've played Boston, they've played teams with size. And he's played 21 minutes, 27 minutes, 13 minutes, and he's still, 6.4K on DraftKings. Like, it's an easy pass for me.
Why are his minutes so fragile? Like 13, 20.
I mean, he's just not being used in that same role. I don't know if it's because they've got Zion now, so they're more comfortable just rolling some smaller lineups. They've thrown Larry Nance out there for about the same amount of minutes. He's been playing maybe a little bit more. I don't have an answer for why they're doing it, but it's just Zion basically is not a fantasy option at this point.
Okay. You mean JVal?
Or yes, excuse me.
Yeah,
JVal, correct.
Yeah, which is I feel like you give that guy a full run of minutes, he like puts up 20-20s.
Yeah, he has. I mean, he has in the past. In fact, if I sort by like RG value for anybody that's getting meaningful minutes tonight. Like, he's down near the bottom.
I don't know. That's odd. Okay. For what it's worth, I like it, Max, although I'm not as smart as cards. DK, Bowl or Mobley? I'll call this a GPP question. Chief.
Give me Bowl in this one.
Very good. Is it risky to add Jovic and Jalen Williams in a lineup?
I mean, if that's a cash game
yes.
question, I don't think you need them both.
Gotcha. Okay. Aside says, what are your thoughts on running 4 Heat cards in FanDuel Cash with only 9 Heat available?
I mean, they only play like an 8-man rotation anyway. Yeah, I don't think you need 4. Like, it's a large enough slate, and we actually don't have any of them above like 20% ownership. The bigs are less exciting now because they've got Dedmon and I think they've got 9 guys active. I could be wrong, but I think we've got 9 guys projected. Or is that what he said? He said 9. In any case, I think probably 2 is good. Like, I'm trying to figure out who the 4 would be. Like, if it's Lowry, Jovic, Adebayo I like in tournaments, but not for cash. Strus I don't like tonight. I mean, maybe it's Lowry, Jovic, Caleb Martin, but that's definitely as deep as I would go in cash.
Okay, let's lightning around a few of these questions. Turner or Vooch at center, which, by the way, looks like Turner and Hooch, which I think is a show. Anyways, Turner or Vooch at center?
I like Vooch.
Very good. DK Cash, 2v2, Tatum Man or Trey Powell?
Second one.
Chief, DK GPP, J Will or Tucker?
J Will.
Very good. DK Cash, Lowry or Simons?
I prefer Simons, but the projections prefer Lowry.
DK Cash, with all the value, I'm not landing on guys like Wagner or Barrett at forward. I'm landing on Tatum at forward. You okay with that?
Yeah, it's kind of how it went when we went through it. I'm okay with that if it works with the salary.
Very good. Achilles, DK Cash, this is a 3v3 for you. Lowry, Grimes, Bam, or Moody, Beasley, Tatum?
Second one.
FanDuel single entry, Chief, Horford, Giannis, or Tatum, Jared Allen?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Give me Horford, Giannis on that, believe it or not.
Very good. Okay, DK Cash, Beasley, or Powell?
Powell.
DK Cash, Giannis, Jaylen Brown, sounds so good, or SGA Tatum, which I think might be the right answer, which is crazy.
The second one's going to project better tonight.
Yeah, that's weird to me. Tournaments, you like the first one, Giannis, Jaylen Brown?
I mean, I think it's it's definitely fine for tournaments, but because not a lot of people are playing Giannis tonight.
Okay, very good. Apparently, I really hurt people because I said Turner and Hooch was a TV show. It's a movie, apparently.
It's a movie with Tom Hanks.
My bad. It's before my time, man. I'm sorry. Like that's my bad. Let's see. Hey, we hit lock. There's or we're within seconds of hitting lock. 3 Golden State guys, no run back. Is that okay in a DK GPP, Chief?
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Was thinking SGA and Giddey with Barrett in a tournament. You okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? All right. DK Cash cards, Lamb Tatum or Lowry Bowl?
Second one.
Okay, very good, guys. We have hit the lock. Oh, did I get that updated? I hope I did. I feel like I'm going to win all the money tonight. I'm not going to lie. Like,
man, I would love for the weatherman to take down the non-weatherman tourney. That'd be incredible, Roth.
I think it's happening. Honestly, this is my favorite lineup that I built, like maybe ever.
I have 2 thoughts.
Yep.
One thought is, when you said Tucker a few minutes ago, I thought somebody was asking about PJ Tucker, and then I realized it was Talen Horton-Tucker, who was a thing like earlier in the day, and nobody else mentioned Talen Horton-Tucker, I think, over the course of the show. It's just how things develop over the course of the day.
Right.
But anyway, I thought of PJ Tucker for a second, and it reminded me of a nugget I saw this weekend. He became the first player in modern NBA history to play 3 consecutive games of at least 30 minutes of court time and not score a single point in any of them. PJ Tucker played 95 minutes over a 3-game stretch and scored 0 points.
It's just amazing. Like, you would think
that worse than Tony Snell?
I think it's worse than Tony Snell. Tony Snell never made that list.
The thing about PJ Tucker, is he even like a lockdown defensive player? Like,
he's pretty good.
Right?
Yeah, he's pretty good defensively. Like, I don't know if it's worth playing 5-on-4 offensively, but like, I mean, he played 95 minutes and he only took 2 shots. He was 0 for 2, obviously, and he did not score. Anyway, that was thought number 1.
That's crazy.
Thought number 2 is I wanted to make sure to give Roth a shout out because Roth made this call last week about when everybody was getting ready to bet the under on this Bills game because there were going to be 6 feet of snow in Buffalo. Roth made the pristine write-up on Scores and Odds about betting the over because A, the snow was going to be done before the game started, or B, the NFL might decide to go 3 days in advance and say, we're going to get everybody out of Buffalo and play the over on 40 points or whatever it was, which the game obviously went flying over that. And the only sweat that Roth had was the stupid decision by the Bills to not get their players out of Dodge as soon as the game was moved, which was the most bizarre thing. But Roth, that call on the game potentially being moved, it was probably the most Nostradamus-like call that I've seen in a while. So I wanted to give you a personal congratulations on that.
Damn, I feel good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was like one of my favorite calls I've ever had. That worked out and that hit. So yeah, thanks, man.
It would have been so tilting if they canceled the game because the Bills didn't leave in time. I'm not gonna lie, part of me was rooting for that just to see what would happen.
I would have had a meltdown. I would have lost my mind. But it was a little tilting also that they hit the over on whatever it ended up being. I think like 51 or whatever. They still hit the over.
I'd like to take Roth back down to earth now because he said that he wasn't old enough to watch Turner and Hooch. Yeah. And I just Googled Kevin Roth birthday, and the internet has never lied. And according to the internet, Kevin Roth is 65 years old. So you are old enough to have seen Turner and Hooch, and I'm upset that you lied.
Kevin Roth. Yeah, that's not me.
Doesn't matter. Kevin Roth is 65 years old.
All right. That guy also, by the way, this Kevin Roth, there are 2 Kevin Roths more famous than me, one of which is a famous child, sings children's songs. And like, if you Google Kevin Roth, he's the dude who pops up. The second most famous Kevin Roth is a meteorologist who's the lead meteorologist at the Weather Channel. I'm not even the most famous Kevin Roth weatherman in the world.
God, we got the wrong Kevin Roth at RotoGrinders?
Yeah, what are the chances? Jeez. They were actually trying to hire the other guy.
Trying to get the other Kevin Roth.
Yeah.
We get this the guy.
Yeah. We get this one. Jeez.
What are the odds?
What would be really funny is if the meteorologist was Kevin Spacey.
I didn't even hear you cut out, and that ruined the joke for me. I'm sorry.
It's those old ears. Yeah. It's those.
It was one of those dad jokes.
Yeah. Hey, as Dean likes to say, we like to end on a high note, and that is it. We're going to get on out of here. Hey, if you enjoyed this show, and how could you not have, hit that thumbs up. There's a little button right there. That's all we ask for. You hit the thumbs up. It lights a different color. It's fun. 4 cards for Chief, for our wonderful production team, always working hard behind the scenes. Guys, we appreciate you. We love you. We will catch you tomorrow.